What is up, you guys? This is All Day Day 1 on the PS4, and I'm going to be giving you a rotation guide video for the Outlaw. So let's go ahead and take a look at the abilities. So you have two different stances, basic and dual stance. So we're going to look at basic stance first. There are no combo attacks for the Outlaw, which is pretty nice. It's a very easy class to use. So you have Dancing Grenade, which is on square or X, 6-second cooldown. Throws a grenade that bounces off obstacles and explodes if it hits an enemy or after a short period of time, inflicting 8.4 million damage to all nearby enemies, stunning and knocking them down back a little. When using Dancing Grenade during lead carousel, the Outlaw throws not one but 5 grenades in random directions. Each grenade inflicts 5.04 million damage. If several grenades hit the same target, all grenades but the first one inflict 80% less damage. Dual stance. The Outlaw shifts into dueling stance that replaces volley fire, lead carousel, and sure shot. In the dual stance, volley fire and lead carousel are replaced with shots from your left and right revolvers fired at the same target. Each shot inflicts 1.68 million damage. After 4 shots, the dual stance is terminated. If you altered the shots, the last shot inflicts 13.4 million damage, activating impulse charge and stunning the enemy for 3 seconds. Inflicts 100% more damage to monsters. The Quick and the Dead inflicts 10.1 million damage to 6 enemies in a 40-yard radius in front. The duration is increased depending on the number of targets. Has a 50% chance to inflict 10 times more damage to the enemies below the elite rank. Stuns enemy monsters and slows down player characters. So if you use triangle, which is dual stance, you're going to use R1 or R2 to use the left or right revolver, and I would only use those two for the boss. And then if you use triangle and then use circle for Quick and the Dead, that'll be used for the groups of enemies, not for the bosses. I mean, it can be used for the boss if the boss is in a group of enemies as well. Now you got Sure Shot, shoots in a line in front, inflicting 5.04 million damage, removes all stacks of tracer and increases damage dealt by 10% for each removed level. Sure Shot, rapid shower and dodge that have a shared cooldown after 2 abilities in the ability group have been used. Lead Carousel inflicts 336,000 damage to nearby enemies. The closer the enemy is to the Outlaw, the more damage they take. Maximum bonus is 50%, which is achieved at 5 yards. Using dash does not interrupt carousel. If 3 and more enemies are affected, the Outlaw has 7% chance to gain the firecracker effect for 15 seconds, which makes the next grenade free and increases its damage by 100%. When using Dancing Grenade during lead carousel, the Outlaw throws not one but 5 grenades in random directions, just like we already went over. So the carousel is able to throw the grenades in multiple directions. Volley fire inflicts 605,000 damage to the enemy, applies 1 effective tracer, restores energy, slows down enemies, and monsters get slowed even more, or slowed down even more. Has a 6% chance to apply firecracker to the Outlaw for 15 seconds, which makes the next Dancing Grenade free, increasing its damage by 100%. And then Fire Frenzy, it's a 40-second cooldown, pretty much like your signature or your ultimate or your super. Volley Fire is replaced by Fire Frenzy that inflicts 7.56 million damage every second to the first enemy that gets hit in the selected direction, and applies Tracer, knocking back monsters and slowing down player characters. For each killed enemy, the duration of Fire Frenzy is increased by 2 seconds up to 16 seconds. Now you got Last Shot, inflicts fatal damage, fully restores energy, available when the enemy has a small amount of health left. And your talents: Combat Readiness, the Outlaw takes 70% less damage for 6 seconds after 2 dashes in a row. When the outlaw is affected by stun, disorient, blind, fear, or disarmament, they can use Dance of Fools, which removes all control effects from them and makes them immune to these effects for 6 seconds while increasing their speed by 30%. Dance of Fools cooldown is a 20-second cooldown. Dance of Fools also lets you do a backflip a really long backflip, so make sure you're not near the edge, because if you're near an edge, you'll fall off the map. Dance of Death. Sure Shot is replaced by Dodge That after a dash forward. The outlaw leaps towards the target, inflicting 5.048 million damage and activating Impulse Charge. The damage is increased by 3 times if the target is affected by Sure Shot. Slows down by 90% for 3 seconds, during which the slow effect gradually decreases Sure Shot. Is replaced by Rapid Shower after a dash backwards. Jumps back and sprays the target with bullets, knocking them back and down, inflicting 2.52 damage and activating Impulse Charge. So depending on where you dash, if you dash in the front, you're gonna leap forward and do damage. If you dash backwards, you're gonna dodge back and shoot also. And then you have Metal Rain. Lead Carousel inflicts 50% more damage when an enemy dies from Lead Carousel. The outlaw gains back 20 points of energy as well. Explosive Star. Fire Frenzy inflicts half of its damage in a 7-yard radius of the target. And then we'll go to Dual Stance. There's only 3 new abilities from Dual Stance. The Quick and the Dead inflicts 10.1 million damage to 6 enemies in a 35-yard radius. Duration is increased depending on the number of targets. Has a 50% chance to inflict 10 times more damage to enemies below the elite rank. Stuns monsters and slows down player characters. Right Revolver and Left Revolver are pretty much the same. And we've already gone over all this actually on the basic stance. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at all these abilities. So this is what your basic attack does. It's just R2. And it activated my bombs. And then when you use, this is Lead Carousel as well. So Lead Carousel is a nice AoE ability. You can move around, and while you're doing this, you can also hit dash as well and dash backwards. And you got combat readiness when you do 2 dashes. So I'm gonna go ahead and use 2 dashes again once combat readiness is gone, and once I get my dashes back. Alright, so I'm gonna dash twice. 1, 2. Got combat readiness. That means you're taking 70% less damage. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use Sure Shot. No, not Sure Shot. I'm gonna use, what is it called? The triangle ability, Dual Stance. I'm gonna go ahead and use Dual Stance, and when you use Dual Stance on a boss or a single target, you're gonna have to spam R1 and R2. Not spam it, but alternate it. So I'm gonna use it right here. R1, R2, R1, R2, yeah. So you can use them at the same time pretty much, just hit both of them. But the reason why you want to do that is because they'll do more damage over, after you use R1 and R2 the first time, it'll do more damage for the next R1, R2. And then if you were to fight a group of enemies like right here, mine is on cooldown, but if you're to use Dual Stance, you would use Circle, and then it'll hit multiple enemies. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and show you that in a few seconds once the cooldown is done. So triangle, and then it'll lock onto multiple targets, just like that. And now you have Sure Shot, which is circle down, and then if you're shooting and then you dash back, you can see you got Sure Shot again, but it's for another different ability. And then dash forward, and if you dash forward and use circle, it'll lunge you even more forward. If you lunge back, it'll lunge you a little further back, not too far back. Or you can just stay in one spot and use this. But when you do that, you can, if you use Sure Shot, you can still use these two abilities. But those two abilities share cooldowns. So if you use dash and circle, or dash back and circle, or dash front and circle, those two share abilities. But pretty sure it was saying that in the talents. Oh, whoops. That in the talents they do more damage after sure shot. Yeah. So sure shots will. Was it from here? Yeah. So the damage is increased by 3 times if you use sure shot. So you use sure shot right here, lunge forward, and then it does 3 times more damage right there. And then the next thing you're going to be doing is you have L2R1, which is pretty much your ultimate, your signature, whatever. And then all it does is rapid fires, and it does explosive. So you'll see the explosive does AoE right there. And it lasts for quite some time as well, which is pretty nice. And it's definitely one of the most known abilities. So if you're doing if you're in a run and fighting boss, that'll normally be the first ability you're gonna be using anyways. But that's pretty much it for the Outlaw. There's not really much to go. You can honestly use any ability you want to use. I'm just trying to explain to you what each ability does and what works with what. And there's honestly only two abilities that work with each other. Obviously, you have lead carousel with the bombs, but you have to wait for the bombs to proc as well. So, right, like that right there, it just procced. But yeah, I mean, it's not like you're gonna need to be taught how to play the Outlaw, since it's pretty simple. But yeah, if this video helped you out at all, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see more of this, go ahead and let me know down in the comment section. Let me know what class you want to see next, and let me know what build rotations or whatnot helps you with your Outlaw. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is all Danny Day 1 on the PS4. Have a good day, good night, and peace.